A goal, Quishbilly, Huddersfield Town. The most famous goal of Quishbilly's life.
Is this the moment for Lee Fowler? It is. Take your place in Division 2, Huddersfield Town.
Groupie and Steve Simonson's boots now. He's missed. Steve Simonson clears the frame of the goal and collapses in a heap of tears. Huddersfield Town are promoted.
Mustafa Schindler has a chance to write his name in Huddersfield Town legend. And he takes that chance!
Hello and welcome to episode 114 of the Andy Takes That Chance podcast. This episode has been delayed a little bit due to the bank holiday, but that has given us an extra few days to make like the Northern Spanish and bask in the afterglow of a triumphant 4-0 win over Reading. Basking with me, a basket short of a picnic, Matt Shaw this week. I have the Carol Baskin to my Joe Exotic. It's Richard Kosmala. And with us today is a Town fan with a warm, fuzzy glow that only 3 league wins in a row for the first time in 53 months can give you. It's Matt Wilson. Okay, Matt. We may be joined at some point by Cameron Pope, who's having a few internet issues. So if he jumps in midway, don't be alarmed about that. I've spared you from a Baskin Robbins and a basketball quip there, Matt. So I'll be grateful for.
Yeah, Matt, for anyone watching on YouTube, explain your stadium, mate. It looks like I think I've had about 15 pints here, and we're going back 1994, and then we're going to 2021.
Mate, I'll be honest with you, it is just covering an eyesore of a room that I'm in. So I have no responsibility for the actual shot. Ask Swansea City because I got it from their website. But yeah,
never trust the Welsh, mate.
I've just been to Wales. I'll have to stick up for them. Right. So before we get going, I want to say another thanks to our sponsor, Magic Rock Brewing. Make it part of your match day ritual. It's a really good place to meet up with friends pre and post match, whether you're on the booze, win or lose, as you say, Kosi. So yeah, thank you to Magic Rock for sponsoring episode 114 of Andy Takes That Chance. Right then, guys, Huddersfield Town 4, Reading 0. The first time we've won 3 on the spin since that lovely Wagner period in February, March 2017, where we actually won 6 in a row, which included a win over Reading in and amongst that. It's our biggest win at home since the last home game before lockdown when Town beat Charlton 4-0 as well. I thought the home game against Everton provided a really good springboard and a template to go at Reading as well. It was a really promising performance, I thought, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, crying out loud, I'm still a bit in shock actually, because I watched the Preston game, and I remember watching that and just thinking, this is the worst win that I can kind of remember going back for some time. Like, I just thought we were terrible, and I was very, very concerned about how the season was going to pan out. And then obviously we had the win against Sheffield United, and I guess a good performance against Everton and a little bit unlucky, and kind of was, fairly positive, but I just did not see 4-0 against against Reading. You can tell my missus.
You're living down south too long.
Yeah, so it just took me completely by surprise. But yeah, it's nice, isn't it? It feels good to actually have a spring in your step and feel proud of the town, because we've not had much of that. So I think probably the best performance for me since we got promoted, really.
Yeah, walking away from the ground, you kind of, spring a bit. And, my little boy had his picture taken with Terry the Terrier. And it's those kind of games where you think, shall we wait outside and see if there's some players come out and maybe have the picture taken with him? We didn't in the end, but, sort of those little things go through your mind because you're on a bit of a high, aren't you? Kosi, Tom Lee's in for Naby Sarr, now shows strength in depth at the back as well. Naby had been excellent, hadn't he, up to really sort of the Sheffield United game, and moved to the left against Everton. Tom Lee's started pretty well. Currently, per game, he's averaging more tackles and interceptions than Naby, who's our top centre-back per game for clearances and blocks. So you could argue, really, stats aside, we've got 2 different centre-backs that we can pick and choose, plug and play, depending on the opposition. It's horses for courses, but both doing very, very well so far.
Yeah, if I'm being honest, my dad's who is in his 70s now, bless him, he could have played at the back on Saturday and done nothing. I thought Reading were absolutely atrocious. Give me a lot of hope coming into the game. I were in a lot of problems about Reading, a lot of infighting, a lot of people not happy. The fans revolting their away following were pathetic on Saturday, which tells you all you need to know about how they're feeling about Reading. And the man who absolutely destroyed us in the game at the, I'm going to say McAlpine. I think, Matt, your screen's getting me confused. Lucas Yao wasn't involved. So I was optimistic that we'd win the game, but still couldn't believe how bad they were in that as well. I mean, yeah, Tom Lees is good to have around. For me, he's an upgrade on what we kind of let go last season. Yeah, 34 years old. You know, Keogh wasn't much, kind of younger, really. What's he was older, wasn't a little bit, and Steven probably the same age. But I just think when I see Tom Lees, I just think there's a few more miles on the clock, shall we say, there. And a guy I've always kind of rated as well when we've played against him, which was never to be said, certainly for Keogh, and probably not as well for Steven. So pleased. And yeah, Naby Sarr, God, we don't want to whisper it too loud, do we? But because, it's like calamity's never far away. But in the month of August, mate, you've just got to stick your thumbs up and say, Naby, you've set the standards, mate. Keep it going.
Yeah. So one thing that we mentioned last week, mate, was we sort of tempered it slightly, but we were sort of saying, are we that good? Or are the fixtures being that kind? And there are arguments, obviously, that you've got to beat what's in front of you. Teams come, you've got to put them to the sword. But we were sort of deliberating whether we'd actually played teams at a really good time. I think the fixture list has been really cruel to us in the sort of past 24 months, to be honest. But this start, are we? We're fourth in the table. Are we that good, Kosi? Or is it just a case of we've picked some teams at a good time, and maybe we should not quite just get carried away just yet, although I might get carried away.
Oh, it's sad not to get carried away when we've had, losing football for 3-4 seasons in a row, and all of a sudden we've racked up 10 points. You're seeing us on the first page of the table for the first time in God knows how long. And yeah, but yeah, I might get a bit of criticism for this and the Grim Reaper, but God, I don't want to pull us to bits, but Derby, probably in the biggest mess they've ever been for many, many a year. Fulham, probably champions-elect, where they've started off on that as well. They did a real good number on us. Preston, Matt just mentioned earlier how great, that game was and that as well. Sheffield United. Yeah, but you've only... The good thing is, Matt, we're beating what's in front of us, which you couldn't have said that before. And I think we're doing it. Something I've banged on about before the start. I think we're doing it without, for me, a real Aaron Moy type figure, Smith Rowe type figure in the middle of the park and that as well. And obviously we'll come on to him later on, but I think so much of the good stuff that we've seen at the start of the season is come from Sorba Thomas, and kind of guys have just fed up him and that as well. So I hate kind of down analysing and stuff, but I'd argue that we played one top team, Fulham. Yeah, you could say Everton reserves, but they what have you. And they took us apart. The others, I think we've hit at nice times and that as well. But someone said something interesting to me on a podcast that I don't know if you were on the other day, Matt, that we did. Where it's crazy, really. There's a guy seems to got everyone from every championship team. And I went on after the first game after Derby, and I was saying, I think we're short of this and we're short of that. And this other guy said, we're short of this and we're short of that. And then we're short of this. And this guy just says, guys, you're all the same. Everyone is short of players. Everyone has not got the ideal squad. And I've kind of come away, and the results since they came. You know what? I think he's right here. As much as we want, we look at the squad and we think we could do with this, that, maybe a winger and a creative midfielder. I think other teams are in just a mess as well. And I think we're going to go look at some of the window signings, which again we'll come on to later on. But yeah, I think it's tempered with that. Are we as bad as maybe I envisaged? I still would say the jury's out, but I'd say there's other teams in a real mess on that as well, because that Sheffield United game we talked about the other week, it's pound for pound, player for player. They shouldn't even be in debate that. Sheffield United should win 3-4-0, but they're in a mess, and it's quite interesting that it gets you going though, doesn't it? Because I'm just thinking, Nottingham Forest to come at home, Christ, they're bottom of the league, can't buy a win, it'll be coming there then. Blackpool, it's like, calm down, but that's football for you. And I just think,
but isn't it good to feel this way, though? Isn't it good to actually be excited, rather than just it feel like a chore, turning up to the ground and just thinking, oh, there's another. almost like not quite a funeral march or a procession, but just sometimes you just turn up and go through the motions. Whereas now you're kind of gliding up those stairs, aren't you, to your seat and arriving maybe 5 minutes earlier.
I feel like there's no pressure on us, and I mentioned it to you before. I thought the running game would tell us a lot about, us, how we've started, because for the first time for a long, long time, I'd say a home game, maybe the Wickham one last season was one I can remember, where I think we were rocked up there last Saturday expecting to win the game. And that's a different kind of pressure, especially a team who's, I'd say, burgled a few results and played on the counter and stuff. It's almost like Huddersfield Town at home, Reading in a mess. Huddersfield Town got to win that game, 10,500 or whatever they're turning up there expecting 3 points. That creates its own pressure, and we dealt with that beautifully. Yeah, you could say they had flaws, but we took the game on them and that as well, which were really, really good. The first time that I've kind of seen where we haven't kind of, because Preston were a bit of a strange one, but the other games kind of sat back and were waiting to pick them off. This was different, and I enjoyed what I saw in that as well. And again, it's just a bloody shame we stopped for these international games.
Oh, damn those international breaks. Right, everybody at the minute is talking about one man, Sorba Thomas, and I feel like I don't want to be left out from the conversation either. So let's have a chat about everybody's favourite wingback at the moment. So, his sweet right foot, ice cold, Sorba Thomas. I'm not sure we're going to add anything new that's not already been said. So we may rehash some of the old stuff. But a stat I threw out, guys, is that in the 6 League and Cup games this season, he's now on 5 assists, which is good. 6 if they would have counted the pass that he made for Josh Koroma against Sheffield United, but because it came back off the keeper, they seem to take that away as an assist, which I think is pretty harsh. The last time, when would you say the last time our wingers excited us? Would you say you had 2 wingers and they both excited us? Would you say 16, 17 maybe? Kachunga coming in, scoring goals, and Van La Parra taking us up the pitch?
I'm going back a bit further, mate. Ben Thornley and...
Robbo and Pilts were the one, weren't they? They were. Yeah, we had quality at that point, like the balls into the box. They could both kind of score goals. Like that was a good era.
Okay.
But I don't know. I mean, I think that what's beautiful about Sorba Thomas so far, because even like you mentioned Aaron Moy earlier, I love Aaron Moy. He's like probably, I think, the best player that I've seen play for Town, like as in just the mastery of the football and the game. On his day, he was incredible. But when he used to take corners and free kick, a lot of the time it just didn't seem that the quality was consistent enough. Whereas all of a sudden, from these free kicks and these corners, every single ball going into the box looks to be like elite level, and I just hope he can maintain that, because it's where's he got this from? Like every single ball into the box looks to be sort of good. So I think he's doing amazing, and the fact that he's kind of come from nowhere is just a beautiful thing. A little bit like a Josh Koroma, who's also quality and dangerous.
Well, I was going to throw in 16-17, Van La Parra and Kachunga down the flanks for us. Both played 94 games between them that season, and got 5 assists between them. So Sorba Thomas in 6 games has already matched both of our wingers from our promotion season, which shows the level of quality he's currently delivering. And not to take anything away from Van La Parra and Kachunga, because they were huge for us that season, but the levels he's currently producing are incredible. If you look at somebody threw a stat in the other day where he's made more key passes than the entire Barcelona team so far this season, little quirky things like that. And against Reading, his passing accuracy 84.2%, 10 crosses into the box, 4 key passes, 2 assists, 1 goal, and a clean sheet because he's playing at wing back. And that's these are phenomenal figures that he's currently pushing out. And the best thing I like about Sorba Thomas as well, Kosi, is that when he does something, when he scores after the game, he's loving life at the minute. And you can see he's the first one in the mix of everything, the one who's got the biggest smile on his face, his arms, he's constantly waving his arms, trying to get everybody going. This guy is loving life at the minute. He's not just turning up to do a job. He came in early. He has to come back early, pre-season. He came back before everyone else. He spent so much time with the dietitians, the analysts, trying to improve his game. He's deadly serious. And he's come back and he's been phenomenal. Since he's in shape. The shape he's in was good when he first came, but now he's playing wing back. He's the figures he must be producing up and down that flank are outstanding. And it's a real testament to a guy who's really taken to professional football in a real serious way. It could have been, a lot of footballers, there's a huge temptation, Matt, isn't there, whereby you can fall into all sorts of traps, social traps, and, agent traps. There's all sorts you can fall into, but this guy has really taken the bull by the horns and he loves it. And I think that's the best thing to see. And the enthusiasm he has for everything just makes me want to watch over and over again. And, if Sorba Thomas is on the pitch, I'm going to enjoy the game.
I think that body language thing that you're alluding to is really important. I mean, bear in mind your Diakabis and your Mbenzas, and quite often they've looked a bit like entitled, a bit like reluctant to be there, a bit like they kind of think that they're the part, and actually they're not. When you look at the actions and you look at what they're producing on the pitch, there's kind of like, it just feels that there's a lack of energy and a lack of kind of like looking like they care. So it's nice to see somebody coming in with the attitude where they're like you say, happy to be there, enjoying their football, looking to kind of make the most of the opportunity rather than sort of just thinking that they're entitled to something, because there've been a big transfer or something. So long may it continue. I just guess that he's going to be very difficult to maintain the kind of efficiency that he's kind of creating at the moment. So I just hope he can, but you just love to see it, and I think it seems to be infectious, because what I would say is that for a long time, and especially like the whole pandemic thing created a very different football experience, didn't it, without the crowd. And I felt that we really struggled with that, because I felt that we were hitting our stride before the pandemic. And then when we came back, we couldn't really get out of second gear. And a few of those games where maybe I felt that we were going to murder the likes of Luton last, when we came back. And all of a sudden, we were a little bit slow out of the blocks after the pandemic. We missed the crowd that would have usually intimidated. And I think that we kind of, at home, we were poor. And I think that now you've got that football back again and fans back again. I think Huddersfield's a club where when the crowd start to get a little bit into it, they can have a real impact on the players, and that's the same everywhere, of course. But at Town, I feel that there's always been quite a special relationship. When the two get going, we can really sort of like create some momentum in the team. And but that's two-way as well. And I think what he's doing is he's energizing the crowd, and that's getting the crowd into it, and it's feeding back in. But the impact now is that you're sort of seeing everybody starting to look like they're enjoying it, rather than what it looked like a year ago, which was that everyone was kind of didn't want to be at Huddersfield Town, didn't want to be playing. So it feels good right now. And that young man, Sorba Thomas, has had a good bit to do with that for sure.
I think the thing for me is, a lot of what you said there, 100% right. And I put a tweet on Saturday night, I got a few pellets for it. I can kind of see where people are coming from, because to me, I think Callis has it doesn't really matter, does it now, because he's made a name for himself. But Callis, for me, has stumbled across Sorba Thomas rather than believing in him. It'd be interesting that he could come on here and say, sure, hang on a minute, because the reason why he didn't come in when he first signed, and I think he did play 7 off the bench or something, but not many minutes and stuff like that as well. It'd be interesting, because he want this and he want that and he want ready. It looks like a master stroke, like he were ready, and someone fired back at me saying exactly that. That's why he hasn't been playing. Obviously, they don't know. Probably I don't know. But to me, I'm only kind of in my gut feel that it's kind of coming in because of the COVID. And yeah, it's took his chance on that as well. But I suppose what we've not got to forget here, this isn't some kind of guy like, God, it sounds like Darren kind of bullet guy, $9,000 from Nuneaton or, Tullow Town, 20 grand. This is the most expensive ever player that has gone from non-league to league football. So we don't have expectations he's going to be like Messi, but there's obviously must be something about him. So that's what frustrated me last year. Why didn't we see him? Because it doesn't matter now. Forget about that. That's the past.
They did that with Karoma as well, though, didn't they?
Very similar journey, Matt. To me, it's just exploded on seeing the semi Karoma. I'm getting texts from a few people who kind of keep an eye on us because of the Premier League. Who's this Josh Karoma? Who's this Sorba Thomas? Because that's because his name Jeff Stilling keeps mentioning his name. It keeps popping up on, on the stuff and that as well. But it's just what you said, Matt. And one of the beautiful things, and again, there's some great camera footage. We have some good camera work in our home games and stuff. But there's one beautiful bit where, he got a little bit of luck with a 1-2, but it was a brilliant goal. He kind of got the deflection back and finished it well. But you cannot beat that joy. The only sadness for me is that's another thing that I'll moan about again. Why we're aiming towards the advert end in the second half, but we'll come on to that later. But he's going around there. He's losing his shit. He's going mental. He's looking for the fans. He looks like a guy who has won a competition to play professional football since August. And
his money's
you're right, Matt, about what the crowd. I totally agree with what you say there. Where, you could say all over grounds, whatever. I think when our fans either feel and agree with a referee or something like that as well, I find our atmospheres or they've got something to shout at. They're powerful, and if you're Sorba Thomas, he's got no fear, mate. And reminds me of what the cheap. Well, I don't know if they're cheap expression. You always see them no fear, didn't you? Jackets and coats, but no fear. The guy's got no fear, and he's running. Yeah, you can't expect these levels to continue, but it's beautiful to see that where when fear's creeping, and Christ, we've seen enough fear, haven't we, in the last 3 or 4 years with players who backwards first. Sorba Thomas' first job. Forward. That's his first thought, and it's so refreshing.
Do you know what? I've got to shout out that left-hand side, though. Like, I really feel that we've got in the likes of Colwill, Toffolo, Lewis O'Brien, Josh Koroma. I think we've got the left side of our team it's got to be the best in the division. And I think that when they start to kind of like some of the triangles that they play, the fact that they can also Lewis O'Brien can kind of run beyond Koroma, Toffolo can. Obviously Levi can play football as well. There's some real quality on that left-hand side. And I think that's keeping that together at the end of the window was massive. But also I think that created a bit for Thomas in that I think that they were having to cope with us, and it sort of almost like left Sorba on a bit of an island with their sort of like left back. And then all of a sudden the ping comes over. I think it was Colwill for one of them, switched it over. And then you've got this confident sort of like attacking, very, very direct kind of guy that's just like with full of confidence running at their sort of like left back. And I think that's interesting for us as a dynamic moving forward. Although the Turton part of it, it's not quite as good, is it? Because then you've got maybe Hogg in the 3-4-3. You've got Hogg, you've got Pearson. They're not quite as fluid as footballers, but that left-hand side, I just think is
fabulous, isn't it? It's the right-hand side though. What's really interesting, Max. We'll move on to talk about the 3-4-3 because this. I'm going to say Sorba Thomas, I think when he initially came in January, you would imagine his fitness levels probably not a championship level, Kosi. I would probably say, I think initially they were going to potentially send him out to Harrogate. That was the word, wasn't it? That he was maybe going to go out there on loan, and then they kind of kept hold of him and bedded him in slightly. And I remember when we lost 7-0 to Norwich, he came on and he was our best player he played about 15 minutes and he was our best player by a mile because he showed that no fear. Everyone else was paralysed by Norwich City and he came on and had a go at them. And so I think, he's kind of eking away and he's just done great work. But we'll move on from Sorba. What I like about this system, Matt, is it felt like it was almost, I'll use Kosi's phrase, almost stumbled upon, really, because we used the 3-4-3 to negate Sheffield United's overlapping centre-backs. So what we've done, really, is we've come up with this system whereby you get players into their best positions, Koroma, in that sort of inside left, coming in as an inside left. Sorba Thomas doing his thing. You have Toffolo as a left wing back, and Pippa will come in, I would imagine, as a right wing back when he's fit, sort of October, November time. And what I quite like is currently what Matty Pearson has played right back a lot throughout his career, at Halifax and at Luton. So what happens is when Sorba runs off up the field with the ball, they kind of wrap around a little bit, and Colwill and Tom Lees will drag them. It's almost like rugby league, Kosi, isn't it? Where you have that rolling defence, how the defence rolls across the pitch. And Matty Pearson wraps around into sort of a right back position. He just sits behind Sorba Thomas. So if that quick ball comes back down the flank, Matty Pearson's there first to clean it out. So tactically, they've got a lot of things covered. And what I really like about it is it kind of covers most of our weaknesses in a lot of ways, whilst also helping to, a lot of our strengths flourish. So Sorba Thomas, from that angle, Josh Koroma, Lewis O'Brien and Jonathan Hogg. Jonathan Hogg, for me, we mentioned on the preview show, Matt, didn't we, that Hogg dropping off as a deep lying playmaker in front of the defence doesn't always work. Whereas, he in this 3-4-3, Hogg is back to, being boss Hogg, the Hogg we all know. He's running around, he's kicking people, he's winning the ball, and he's giving it nice and easy, and the move goes on again. And Lewis O'Brien's also doing the same thing. those two and their energy levels are off the scale, and those two are just winning the ball and giving it to your more creative types, and Sinani and Karoma, and it's working really well. And I'm going to enjoy it while it lasts, to be honest, because you just feel that with it being Huddersfield Town, there's going to be an injury around the corner or something's going to happen. It's
COVID outbreak.
Yeah, but I'm really enjoying it, and fair play to I'm going to give credit to Carlos. Full disclosure, I think if Carlos had gone, February, March, April last year, I wouldn't have been bothered. But now we're seeing more of what we thought we were getting. I'm starting to get back on board. My chinos are out of the closet all of a sudden, and my New Balance are back from the shoe rack. It's really great to see. And one message we've had on the football forum from Dag Barnett says the last 3 games have seen the team with a much more coherent shape, and players look like they know their roles. All credit to Carlos. If only we had that quality in the middle. But if injuries are kind, we should be okay this time around. And I think a lot of people, not just us, are buying into what is buying into that Reading game, buying into the Everton game, and buying into the shape, sort of the finish from Sheffield United. And, fingers crossed, this is the template going forward. And if this is the template, I'm really excited, Matt.
I mean, I think we've got a lot more to come from Karoma, like he doesn't look like he's fully in his kind of his full flow state. Like last year before he was injured, his flow state, I just thought was like, he was kind of picking up the ball, he was carrying it. He just had that confidence and that swagger of a guy that really is playing very freely and feeling like he can just do what he wants with the football. And he's not quite got, I don't think, to that level yet, but I'm sure that if he can find that, we're good. And it's all going to hinge on this kid from West Ham, because if he's got what we kind of hope that a young kid from the Premier League could have, like a high ceiling, then it could get interesting. Because, by and large, the defense is stronger. We've got a much greater kind of pedigree. The rotation's better there. I feel that we still feel we're a bit short. Carlos has had to adjust. Keeping hold of Lewis O'Brien has put us in good shape. And then there's a few players that are confident, and we've not had a lot of that we've just been crippled with fear, really. And now the crowd are feeling a bit good, and they do have a huge part to play, as we've been discussing. So yeah, I'm starting to feel confident, albeit 3 wins, I think, flatters us. But I think that sometimes you need a little bit of luck, like we maybe had against Preston. And maybe we had a bit of that against Sheffield United as well. But we got to say as well, to be honest, the keeper, I think, has made a huge difference. Like my cousin Dan and my uncle, who we have a little town WhatsApp group we talk about. Dan made the point very well that he thought that at Sheffield United, at Chef U, if we'd have had Schofield in, we probably would have lost that game, because there's I think that he lets things happen that maybe Nichols doesn't let happen, in the way that Nichols commands things, like Nichols look like, because shot stopping is one variable of goalkeeping, right? But then there's all these other things about how they are with the football and how they communicate and how they take pressure off the defense. And for me, looking at the eye test, I never thought Schofield looked like I want a goalkeeper to look, whereas Nichols, it looks like what a proper goalkeeper should look like. And I think that he's been a part of that. So that, I think, gives you a much better platform.
He's very calm. He's very calm, is Lee Nichols, and that then transcends to the rest of the back three, which is really good. There was times against Reading where I think there was an occasion where there was a long ball over the top, and he ran outside his box and just very calmly headed it to one of the centre backs, which I think was Colwill. And I like Ryan Schofield, but if that's Ryan Schofield, he either waits in the box and there's a collision between him and the attacker, or he comes out and he puts it into the stand. And it's just experience, from Lee Nichols, that calmness, the older head, the experience. And he's worked his way up as Lee Nichols. He was really highly rated at Wigan, when I think Wigan might have been in the top flight actually at the time. And I think he might have played a game or two, and then he's just had to go back down and work his way back up. And, there's a couple of crosses that he came and got against Reading as well. He just makes it look easy. He makes goalkeeping look easy, whereas, people like me make goalkeeping look really difficult. So, and that's a brilliant thing about Lee Nichols, is that you don't realize how good he is because he just makes everything look really easy. And,
maybe Schofield needs a loan, just to get games and experience, because You know,
That's the best way you learn, mate.
Yeah.
Honestly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go on, Cos. You would look like you were going to say something.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting at the moment because obviously last season we let in as many goals as any would. So we had to do something different, otherwise Carlos would be out of a job. And kind of my thoughts were, you know, safety first managers that for me that we had under, you know, Cowley and obviously Chris Powell and stuff. So to me, it's kind of on one hand, I'm thinking, well done, Carlos, because you've made us more solid. You had to make us more solid, otherwise you'd be out of the job. On the other hand, I'm thinking, the trouble is I didn't see the Everton game and all the feedback I've, you know, kind of been hearing was it would have kind of honestly, I've never known us getting knocked out of a cup game when everyone was so upbeat. They were incredible. So we must have kind of changed things and look more positive and
more front foot, more attacking.
We were front foot against Reading. So I think what I'm trying to say to you is I want to see a bigger sample size, really, probably another month before I kind of say, you know,
before you get your chinos out, same as me.
Yeah, because we had a bit of a debate last night on our pod group because Pozza was saying, like, you know, as long as we win, he was saying I'm not kind of bothered, but I don't want to be seeing kind of what maybe we've seen.
You want the sexy wins, don't you?
Yeah, but I kind of contradict myself really because at Sheffield United, we couldn't. I thought the tactics were right. We couldn't go more, but you know what I'm trying to say. When I get out the stadium, I want to be excited. And
when it's time to play, you want to play, but when it's time to, I know what you mean.
The thing is, the last two games, the evidence seems to be. Obviously, I saw the Reading game we took the game to them that as well, and we were excited. So it'll be fascinating to see because next month we've got midweek games to come. And when we're having this debate, you kind of start of let's get my months right in October, then it will be it'll be interesting. But honestly,
we'll be up by then at this rate.
Yeah, we do look solid. And the other thing as well, I've never known a Town side from set pieces look as dangerous. It's incredible.
Imagine if we had Jamie McCoom at the back there.
But every time we get a corner or free kick, I'm thinking we've got a chance here. I know we've got, you know, Pearson who can come run right, and there Tom Lees is no mug as well in the aerial. But God, how many times over the years have we like had even at a mile we love to death? Like
not really since Gary Roberts, is it? We get those in-swinging Gary Roberts corners used to get 10 a season from.
It's brilliant, isn't it? Just having that thing to our armoury, and if we can improve some of the outfield play and that as well, the signs are really good. And the next four fixtures are kind of after that. I don't think there's anyone really who this is
Stoke is the interesting one, isn't it? So I'm sure Brady and Josh
it lures you in like this, doesn't it? And just as much as we were saying, I didn't fancy it at Sheffield, and you know,
Stoke have hit some look quite decent, don't they? And I think Stoke is a really good test of where we're at. To be honest, I think that'll be
the right good right back. I've heard that Huddersfield didn't want, but there we go.
I can't get my head around that, but we'll ignore.
Don't jinx it. He'll probably play and have a storm.
Yeah, probably 3 assists.
I think Billings' long throws was our most dangerous sort of set piece in like the last few years, which is mad. I remember that always used to bring a little bit of optimism, but it's good seeing that for sure.
I think what we were saying before it, Matt, were like, I was saying, where's our quality? Where are the quality players? But just exactly like Kroman, just has gone to the fore. You'd never, if you did in a pre-season podcast last season, Josh Kroman would be quality. And it's the same with this season. So it's not quality. So it's really good. There's people spring up. And like you said there, Matt, if this Mipo guy who sounds interesting, and that's what Sinani, I like what I've seen with him there on Saturday. All of a sudden, the list, if I were making a list of quality players, because we used to just say O'Brien, Toffolo, you know, we were kind of putting Pippa in there really and that as well. But now I think it's an expanding list, and that can only be good.
Do you know what, mate? I've got a point right at the end, and I'm going to bring it forward because you have just segued into that nicely for me. So I'm just going to scroll down here. But what I was going to say at the end was the promise of this team for me is really exciting. I look at what we've got. I look at O'Brien, you know, the age is the relative age and the fact that these players are still on an upward curve at the minute. I look at O'Brien, I look at Scott High, Toffolo, Edmonds Green, Karoma, Sorba Thomas, Pippa, Sinani, and they're all relatively young. Toffolo, maybe the oldest of those. And if we can maybe add I want to see over the next 18 months, this core group stick together. I know it's going to be difficult because people will come and offer money for X player, X, Y player, and we've still got to clear debts at the football club. And that's a difficult thing. But
that's the issue.
If we can keep this core of players together and they can keep improving under this coach, then I look at that and I get really excited. I really like what Scott High brings and the potential of Scott High. I like you know, and you look at that potential midfield, you know, of Pippa on the right, Toffolo, Scott High, O'Brien, Sorba Thomas up front, you know, with Josh Karoma, potentially a new guy, Mipu Obadiku. And all of a sudden you're thinking this could potentially be really exciting if they continue to grow together, and the team could genuinely go places. It's just keeping the wolves from the door, isn't it? Not maybe literally at some point.
But look, when you're talking about wolves from the door, it's kind of like, that's right, let's keep the wolves out, like that's your plan. And I honestly, you've got to look at what the motivations of the club and the owner of the club are, you know. Like I still see us, and this is the problem, because there are some beautiful things here where a bit by luck, perhaps, you know, a bit of good business, but for me, when you look at the decisions that have been made, we've had the best window, I would say, but I think that we're a selling club, you know, like I do think we're massively a selling club. I don't know what the motivations of I don't know if we're actually sitting there going, how can we really like be the best that we can be, or whether we're actually 99% of the decision-making process tracks to financial, you know, reasoning. So that's my only fear. I think that there is some good things to play with, but I don't think that we're sitting there going, fuck, how can we just get that extra bit to really take advantage? I actually think that they're going, Leeds, please give us this much for Lewis O'Brien, and we'll gladly sort of like pull our pants down, because we just want the instant gratification of some dough. Do you know what I mean? So they can, I don't know, pay off or whatever. So that's my fear with it. And that's why all of my excitement about a couple of players and a couple of moments is tempered by the reality of what the goals are.
Well, like I said, there is a really good core there, so maybe one or two out and decent replacements might not be too detrimental. But
Matt, you've got to be honest, young players, you cannot, as much as we're loving this ascendancy from Sorba Thomas,
they're all playing for England, mate. That's what's happening.
Yeah, but you can't
Wales in Thomas
carry on the full season. You know what I mean? It's you know the wear and tear of a championship, the expectation. So it's great to get these young players. I must admit, somebody come to me and kind of thrown in, I can't believe we've got like an experienced striker or someone up front and that. So I'm like, well, hang on, we got Jordan Rhodes, but I know what they're trying to say, because obviously not. It's almost like, but then you know, Fraser Campbell's all. But I know what they're kind of trying to say. It's like you need. I suppose you just, a club like ours just can't kind of sign players.
No, we can't go out and sign a 25-goal striker. We need to create players, and that's what we're doing, isn't it?
But I just think, you know, Nottingham Forest next home game, everyone they'll be still bottom when we play them. It's like everyone should be winning this, and that's the thing. Just temper it, and that's what, because they're going to be down. But then when you think what Karoma did last, I suppose he had a big injury layoff as well, so you just got to watch out. But it's interesting, isn't it? Which is more than I think we could have said before the window opened, and that's
some things to look forward to, mate. That's it. All
Definitely.
of a sudden, we've got things we can be excited about going forward, which is great. And I'm going to be excited about reading out the football forum. Okay, so I'm going to move to the Twitter comments. So I'm going to go through some of these. If you guys want to jump in with any of these comments, feel free to do so. But thank you to everybody who gets in touch with us and sends in their messages. We always appreciate it when everybody gets in touch and interacts with us. So Jay Bentley says, Thomas, the assist engine is just incredible. I'm trying not to get carried away, but we have an international break and Town are fourth with a positive goal difference and some winnable games in September. I know, positive goal difference.
That Fulham minus, have we? Come on.
that's the amazing thing. If you can't be happy today, maybe football is not for you. Nathan M says, a brilliant team performance with contributions from everyone. Not enough superlatives for Sorba Thomas. Absolutely outstanding yet again. Carlos looks to be growing as a manager. Top four with positive goal difference. Couldn't really ask for more going into the break. Hudders Wayne says, we can't get carried away after beating 3 really shit teams, but days like this don't come around too often for Town fans. So we're on our way. Kosi, take that one out. You're not going to sing it, are you? We were actually singing that in the sense.
But we didn't draw or lose or what have you. We got 9 points against them. So yeah, definitely. Sheffield United can't be as bad as this carrying on. So that'll be big points then.
Wayne does say, seriously, though, we would have taken this position after Fulham, top 4 and 8 points clear of the drop.
You are. Understatement of the year.
And one thing we've not mentioned, guys, William Bradbury says Danny Ward has finally scored, and the BBC called him Josh Ward, which was Lovely for Danny. So HTFC Hursty says, Kyle Brown has calmly and quietly turned the ship around. Couldn't go into the break in better form. Suddenly it doesn't matter if you like Phil, Bromby, Devlin, etc. We have a team we can get behind. Well done, everyone. And I think that's it. That's a good point, actually, that when we aren't doing too badly, there's all sorts of fractures and people are pointing fingers at this and that, which does happen. But a good football team unites a lot more people than divides, which is great. Clark Eastwood says, a great win based on a solid defensive platform. Having 4 informed centre-backs to draw from is a luxury. Front foot from the off and everyone putting in a shift. The collective delight from the whole squad with each goal shows that there is a real togetherness in this group. I think that's a great tweet. James Slam Dance Cosmo. Fantastic win. What a player Sorba is. Everything clicked into place suddenly. Fingers crossed for Lewis that he stays, which he has, and Ward can hopefully kick on to now. Terrier 1964. What a week to be away on holiday. Got home just as the 4th goal went in. Anyone fancy paying me to go away October half term? I think we'll all pay away for him to go tomorrow, after the international break and stay there, Andrew. Off you go. Just to wrap up now, John Broadley says, wrap Sorba the Great up in Cotton Wool for 2 weeks. No more injuries in training, please, Carlos. Craig Holroyd says, what a difference a few weeks makes, playing on the front foot and moving the ball quicker. Still think a new striker in midfield would benefit. We've got that striker now. Credit where credit's due. Defence recruitment looks spot on. And Sivan John says, kudos to Carlos for weathering the storm and sticking to his game plan. I know these are early days, but no harm in dreaming of being in the Premier League next season, which goes against what you two, I think, would like. And then the last comments, the Huddersfield Town family friendly, the great Facebook group, if you want to join that. Says Sorba Thomas, this man is on fire. What a find. There are hidden gems out there. It's just about finding them. The podcast could well be named after him now. He's certainly taking that chance. Way. Jerry Hinnon, an actual American Town fan. We've got a couple of those, believe it or not. It says, man, I remember 87 years ago when Town got destroyed by Fulham and responded by not getting a single shot on target at home to Preston North End. Terrible dark times those were 8+ decades ago. And Dan Peckett says, I wasn't predicting a win until I saw the team training before the match. Seeing the lads with big smiles on their faces, including the bench players, I could tell that there was a genuine camaraderie that I haven't seen in a long time, which is a great point and one that we've noticed, Cos, isn't it?
I think what's interesting, Matt, is like, if you look at that team, we're going about it, don't we? That team that played in the pandemic game against West Brom when we got Leeds up, and the quality on that bench, but the expectation, I think, because of some of them names was still like Premier League, I think the expectation was higher, even though we'd lost a lot of games. There was higher expected of these players because of kind of what they maybe have done in the past, Shinley and Hildred and stuff like that as well. I think a season without the fans, a lot of them players kind of are gone, and a lot of fans are just almost like expectations has gone. It was interesting what Matt said there. It's like, where are we really heading? What are the fans? Are we just wanting a bit of fun again, just to enjoy football? Do we want to go back to Premier League and that? So I honestly think now people are just coming in, not almost like written it off and down, but you know what I'm trying to say? It's like, for me now, I came into the season thinking 16th to 24th. I thought we'd probably go down, to be honest with you. And
we both said 18th-ish, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. But so my expectations were really, really low. So all of a sudden, we're seeing like green shoots and recovery. We're winning games against, 1 or 2 poor sides, but it's a little bit different now. I think the Town fans' expectation is totally different, even to before COVID locked us down. I just think
you've hit the nail on the head. The expectation is actually the source of dissatisfaction in most situations. Like in the Premier League, the expectation we went up there really. How we got up? We had no right to get promoted on that budget. You know what I mean? We didn't. And we got up because we somehow fostered this amazing team spirit. We had a little bit of luck with injuries, and we managed to win a coin toss and get up there in the playoffs, right? But it was a very big gap that we had to fill in a very short amount of time, operationally, logistically, before you even put out 11 players on the pitch. We had a lot to do. The fact that we stayed up in that first season was actually a miracle. It was a miracle. And then you go into that second season, and I just felt that the expectation just went mad to the point where people were seeing players going to these other places. Well, we should be signing him. And everyone sort of started to drink that Premier League Kool-Aid and get a little bit carried away. And it got to the point where I thought that the fan base did go toxic and people did lose complete they lost control, they lost reality essentially, and then everybody started to get really, really upset when actually it was quite clear we were overmatched from start to finish. We were never gonna. It was only a matter of time, and everybody came down really pissed off. That carried on. People were talking about bouncing back, but you had all these players. No one wants to sign for Huddersfield Town, really. Like, let's be honest. Do you know what I mean? There's a few people I would. Do you know what I mean? Matt's son would. But footballers, they don't. They want to play at a high level. They want to play for big teams. You know what I mean? They want to get as much money as possible. That's the reality of it. And I felt that expectation that we came down with meant that we were living up to this false reality that we were never gonna. And everybody was then completely pissed off. And I think you've hit the nail on the head that actually going through that process, Town fans have actually gone, do you know what? Actually, they've lost that, and now we're just happy to be here, happy to be able to go to the game, happy to cheer on some young kids, you know what I mean, and get behind some players that look like they're happy. And I think that could be the best thing that happened for them, because now they're going to get behind them rather than feeling that they're kind of like, I don't know, this dissatisfaction with where we are versus where they think we should be, you know. So I think
it's really, totally agree, Matt. And if you think that journey we went on to get into the Premier League, because things from Christmas, it was like, you know, we were, you know, wow, this is good, but can we stay? Then it were like, wow, this is getting serious. And you would go to places like Rotherham away, like, we've got to win this, and Brighton at home and Leeds and what have you. And it's like now, I like the fact, I always like being the underdog, I suppose, as a Town fan, that's all you're ever going to be. So it's kind of interesting, go at Stoke, you know, in the next game. And it's like, again, it's kind of an excitement, really, because even though we're probably, I think we're higher than them in the table, sorry, I don't know where Stoke are, but I still will expect probably that there's going to be a struggle where, I suppose it just gets to that point, doesn't it, where does reality kick in, or do we have another good month? And then it's like you're thinking, good. I suppose it's just enjoying this football again and being a fan, because when you're getting beaten week in, week out, it's a totally different thing. I mean, to win 3 games, I know we laugh at it and the opposition, whatever, but it is an amazing thing that for a Town side that's been in shambles for 3-4 seasons to win 3 games in a row.
I compare that Premier League, like when we were going to places like Liverpool even, and we were just seemed to be happy to just be in our box. I was just like, what is this? Why am I wasting my energy doing this? Like, there's nothing to cheer for here. Do you know what I mean? I'd much rather reign in hell than serve in heaven. Do you know what I mean? I just wouldn't. I thought that Premier League experience was just ugly. And the fact it went into the second year, it was almost like, oh God, because parts of it were just ridiculous, but people kind of wanted that status. It's a very weird poison chalice, the whole Premier League. But you're right, where we are now, the fact that we're now going, oh God, we could look at, could we win this? Like, it's good to actually go into games thinking you've got a chance and you could win something, you know, something to cheer for.
God, this is an interesting debate. It probably rips up your script here, Matt. But Sheffield United is obviously like the perfect template where you can just see, like, it's almost a ghost of Bulls, obviously, or stayed up against, well, not all the odds, maybe than we did, but ridiculously overachieved, come straight back down, lost the kingpin, the talisman, Wagner, you know, Wilder. But the difference is now is look at their squad and Bruce and what have you, they've got ridiculous, you know, Sandy Burst, they've got like top players. They're thinking, right, well, they should be up there with like Fulham and stuff, and it hasn't happened. And it's a long way back from that. I know they've kind of gone around, so it hardly looks like a club that's ready to settle for mid-table at this stage. But it's just that expectation that they'll be going out in the lane. It's like they're expected to be playoff spots minimum, where I think we all hoped we'd be that, but it's all about what you expect going there, and we're having fun again now. And I think, like I say, it's the Scott Eyes and Thomases and what have you, it's rubbing off on the fans and stuff. The social media stuff's quite interesting, because I think that's a big influencer for me. And the stuff that's kind of being churned out, there's a lot of smiling faces, like the Mippo, are we going to come on to him now or whenever, but it's like real, I liked what he was saying, real humble guy, real excited guy, can't wait to be here. That doesn't mean to say he's going to score 10 goals or whatever, but it's these kind of characters we had in where I think we've had like to, you know, Pritchard and going on, you know,
apparently that second season, cause in the Premier League, apparently we altered our approach, and we allowed, because we thought we needed to get a better quality of player, we actually went against what we did previously and got players in whose personality may not have matched before.
I think the word, Matt, is hunger, mate. Hunger.
Yeah.
The fan base has got the hunger back a little bit, which is good as well.
I'm going to come on to the transfer window, but we're going to go back as well to Phil's interview in May, and Phil does mention, and this is on point as well. Phil mentions that the problem with coming down was a lot of players came specifically for the Premier League and not for Huddersfield Town, and I think that pretty much. I think everyone would concur that, you look at a lot of those players who came in, your Terence Congolos, etc. Don't like hanging people out to dry, but I'm sure he doesn't care what I think. So, people like that probably came for the Premier League experience, because Huddersfield Town are Huddersfield Town. People don't, Cristiano Ronaldo's just gone to sign for Man United because it's Man United, essentially. He's not going to just go to the Premier League and sign for whoever. So, Huddersfield is a tough sell, for, in terms of Championship and Premier League. And when you can get those young, hungry players in, Kosi, then that's really what makes Huddersfield tick. The sort of the Huddersfield matches well. You talk about personalities of football clubs. Huddersfield Town's personality is that of the underdog, is that of someone who's striving to be better, and improve, work hard and improve. And David Wagner embodied that brilliantly. And he took us all on this huge ride up to the Premier League based on this ideology. And the players have really got to fit that ideology. And we slipped up, in the second season. And, and we're now starting to get some of that back with, your Sorba Thomas, your Scott Hydes, your Karomas. And we love it. We love it. And we're going to go to the transfer window. So there we go. But yeah, I enjoyed that. But let's have a look at the transfer window as a whole. So late in May in 2021, the majority owner and chairman Phil Hodgkinson did an interview on Radio Leeds, bestowing the quality of Carlos Corberán. He said that the first players to come in would be a goalkeeper, right back, left back, centre back, and a striker. This interview is still online at Radio Leeds if you want to go back and listen to it. The 5 players that came in were Lee Nichols, Oliver Turton, Josh Ruffles, Matty Pearson, and Jordan Rhodes. In this interview, he then went on to say that thereafter that the club would need to move players on, i.e. make some sales, to reinvest into signings further up the pitch to get people on their feet. Then he also went on and said another centre-back, and attacking midfielders, and we were looking at Premier League and overseas loans. And I think some people have taken that, he was going to make some bums-off-seat signings, and maybe expected a little bit more of what we've done, which is fine. But I think this goes back to the expectations of what Huddersfield Town are, and links him to what you said, Matt, about the expectations and the reality of what Huddersfield Town are now, and maybe what we're striving towards. And I think sometimes maybe that picture's not very clear, as to what we're looking for. I think some people would have said Conor Hurrihan is someone who maybe we should look at, but, you look at his 50 grand a week wages and, Huddersfield aren't going to be, paying that anytime soon. Okay. So he did say as well, possibly 2 out and 8 in. To the club's credit, the outgoings were slow. So after Phil Hodgkinson said this about, on your feet, bums off seat signing, we did bring in Levi Colwill, Daniel Sanani, Tom Lees, and we've brought in Mipo Odebeku. I won't count John Russell or any B team signings. There was interest from the Chesties with Lewis O'Brien, but from what we understand, Leeds didn't structure the deal with enough guaranteed cash, and it was a lot of spurious clauses maybe in there, which may or may not have happened, which meant that Huddersfield weren't interested in that. And we'll talk about Mbenza a bit later on. So since that interview, we've had 9 in, and we've had 1 fee recouped, and that was Juninho Bacuna. But we have released 9, which has trimmed the wage bill significantly as well. So I thought what might be quite fun is to go through these new signings and maybe give them an early rating. I know they've only played, well, Josh Ruffles hasn't played yet, and neither has Mipo Obadeku. So we'll probably ignore those. And I thought what would be quite fun is if we give them a little rating on our little sheets here, and we'll see, and we'll do a little bit of a chat about what we think of each one so far. So we've touched on this already. So Lee Nichols, Kosi, you're going to use your fingers because you haven't got a notepad. So we're going to go look at Lee Nichols. So I mentioned earlier, I love how calming Lee Nichols is. He doesn't do anything spectacular. He doesn't windmill at crosses like a stressed out daddy long legs or anything like that. I think he's quite a good spot. So I'm going to give hit Lee Nichols. So we'll all hold them up at the same time. We're going to go Lee Nichols. I've gone 7. Matt, because of the background, has gone an 8, and Kosi's gone 7. So
it's all right, Matt, having this pad, you can't see it. Get your hands in the air, man.
Yeah. Is it there now? Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing,
7.
I think you've got to judge him obviously what he's done, but I think the bar on our goalkeeper has been set so low in recent seasons that I think anyone could have come in who were half decent and looked better than what we had really, and that as well. But credit to him. We were saying at the start of the season who's going to be the number 1. There's absolutely no doubt at the moment who's got that shirt, and it's going to take a lot for him to lose it really now.
Just keep him fit. That's what we want.
We've got more promises that Cameron Pope may be joining us any moment. So Cam's finally sorted his router out. So hopefully he'll be in anytime soon. So I'll just prep you guys for that, just in case he randomly appears. Right. So next we have Oliver Turton. So on 3, we'll go 3, 2, 1, and then show 3, 2, 1. I've gone for a. Kosi, what are you going for?
Yes, Sam.
Oh, Matt's gone for a 4. Matt, justify your 4.
I mean, look, it's early. It doesn't look to me like he's at that level. He looks like you know, you were talking earlier about Nichols and playing calm. It looks to me like the game's going faster in his head than it actually is. I haven't just been impressed with what I've seen from him so far. So I can't see him doing anything but fill in on the odd game. And I look at him and I'm just, I don't think he's the guy. He's not it.
He gives me, Kosi, Darren Edmondson PTSD, does Ollie Turton. I'll be honest, he reminds me of Darren Edmondson so much in that, you know, the effort's there, but maybe the quality is not quite what you're missing. But it's very early for him. So I've given him a 6 because it's early and he seems relatively solid. I know people point to the Everton goal and he got he lost his man, but I'm not entirely sure that was all on him, to be honest. But I'm going to give him an early 6 because we've made a good start this season and he has contributed. And you think you've pointed 6 as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to having a few beers with some Blackpool fans in a couple of weeks and just to get chatting to them about him and that as well, because like you say, normally you'd see 1 or 2 qualities even at this early stage, and like Matt was saying now, I think you're struggling to see it. The one thing that stands out is his crossing distribution seems to be pretty poor and that as well, but I think the bar's so high, and it had a Toffolo that anyone who's going to, you know.
And Pippa, to be fair, you know.
They came in but he definitely looks a downgrade. But like I say, it's early days and he'll be in a training thinking, I've got to get my finger out to kind of get up to our level, really, which is, good for him. He's still got plenty to give us, I think. He can't just be, a bit of a Blackpool legend. I get in the lower divisions and just kind of show us what he has. So I think there's got to be more to come, surely.
Cam, how are you doing?
Gentlemen, the vagaries of the internet have deprived me of your company for the first however many minutes I've missed. But thankfully, my router has now been kicked into life. It was a classic kick up the arse tactic that seemed to do it in the end. So glad I could finally join you.
Well, that's great. We've had a great show, so we'll see if it's game.
Exactly. Yeah, we're just doing the transfers, Cam. So what we're doing is we are giving a little rating to the players that we've got so far. We've even, me and Matt have gone as far as scribbling down a number in our notepad to give out, such as this. Because he's using his fingers.
I've got a really high-tech system prepared here with an orange highlighter and some paper, so I'll be able to join right in, hopefully.
Fantastic.
So better than your internet, Cam.
Well,
yeah, indeed.
What we're going to give you, we'll let you catch up, Cam. We'll say, what would you give Lee Nichols then out of 10 for his start so far this season?
Well, luckily, Lee Nichols was the easiest one to come to because he is right at the top of my notes and he scores a very solid, so backwards, isn't it? 9 out of 10. That's a P.
Oh, that's decent
on there. But indeed, and so I think he's excelled in the position we most needed covering assurance in. 3 clean sheets in the 5 he's played. He's got a command over his box that we haven't seen since Jonas Lörsel left. Sometimes, and the only one criticism I can come to is that I'd like him to distribute the ball a little bit quicker. Sometimes you see Thomas and Karoma asking for the ball straight out of his hands, and for whatever reason he likes to hold until we've got into shape. Perhaps he's been told to do that. I'd like to see him let loose with the ball a little bit quicker so we can counter sometimes, but there's no real qualms for me to be had of him, to be quite honest. So 9 out of 10.
Good. I think we give him mostly 7 just because of how he's just steady away, isn't he? He's calm, he's decent, and I think he just adds that layer of just coolness across the back 3, doesn't he? What we're saying.
He does. You can see that he gets the best out of the defence now, given that we've finally got that solidity, and that's no shade on Schofield, but you can definitely see that the pressure seems to be off those defensive shoulders now. And
Phil Senior as well noticed when he went against Preston, he said it's the quality of information that he gives to the back 3 rather than just pointless shouting. Because we've all played Sunday League football, and you hear the same useless sort of shouts, turn and face, sort of get into him. All this, it's not quality information, is it? And
Pickford's a panicker. Like, you watch him, I thought that in the Euros he was creating problems for our defense. Like, he looked to panic. Like, and when like teams are going to have shots, things are going to happen, and yeah, Nichols is a bit more of a calming guy, isn't he?
Nichols for England. That's why we're going with that, innit, Matt? Ollie Turton, me and Kosi gave a 6 and Matt gave a 4. What have you got for Ollie Turton, Cam?
Well, I think I can fit in again because again it's backwards, but I've got a 6 as well. I think he struggled at times. I thought that was most evident against Everton when he was brought on, and I think that in that wide region, that's a position we've excelled in over the last season and a half, really, with the likes of Toffolo and Pieper, and so I think tough boots to fill. And I think it's something we're going to have to get used to, though, if Pieper's out for as long as we've been told he's going to be out. But he looked better, I thought. I thought he looked better when he came on against Reading. I think that was because the team was elevated. Not quite sold on him just yet, but hey, small sample size of games, and I hope he goes into it.
I think what's fair to mention as well that we haven't mentioned yet is that he's an out and out right back, and we've been playing him as a wing back, which is probably not his strongest position, but we'll give him the benefit of the doubt for now, surely. The next one I've got is Josh Ruffles, but he's not played yet, so there doesn't seem any point really giving Josh Ruffles a rating yet, other than just to say, get well soon.
Yeah.
He's played for the B team now, I think, so he's on the way back. So hopefully we'll get to see Josh Ruffles.
So hopefully he's not on a dodgy stream any longer. Get him on a proper cameraman.
We'll go now with Jordan Rhodes. So for me, I'll kick Jordan Rhodes off. I love the guy, Jordan Rhodes, fantastic player for us in the past. And I really hope it turns out to be a great signing, but I'm still of the opinion at the minute where I'm not entirely 100% sure how he fits into this sort of fast-paced style we're playing in the 3-4-3, and we were sold. I'm giving Jordan Rhodes a sentimental 6 because I thought he has looked okay at certain points, but I hope it turns out well because he's a great guy. I'm just sort of sat there still wondering how he fits into everything yet. So on 3, everybody else, 1, 2, 3.
I can't even. I don't know yet. Like
Backwards.
I can't even grade him.
Fair enough. Cam?
That was a 5 from me. Middle of the road. There's been plenty of actual chances that he could have scored, which was the disappointing thing earlier on in the season. I know he netted the penalty against Wednesday, and so again, it's hard to judge after so few games. We're only at the first international break, of course, but fitness concerns are a real problem. I mean, we've signed the guy in a 3-year contract, and if he's going to be out for so long, then I'm just wondering who's carried out this medical. I've not. It's not been the return that we'd all hoped for. But is it the return we expected? Possibly. That's why it's not lower than a 5. But look, until he comes on and until he starts to feature regularly, until then it has to stay as a very average 5. But there's nothing to say that once he gets back to fitness and perhaps gets a run in the side, he's not going to be hitting double figures for us this season, I don't think. But hey, like, why can't he play a role like Fraser Campbell can, where it's not the goals he scores, but the effect he has on the defenders around him? I wonder about Rhodes because I think that he is a born finisher, and that's what we brought him in for. He always knows instinctively where that second ball is. He's not a man who's going to hold the ball up for you and bring in the smaller, diminutive striker. I'm with Matt. I don't know if he is the sort of player.
Cool. Right. Sorry about that. We've had a slight gremlin interruption, which Cam, I think, brought with him. Either way, I'm going to blame Cameron. So sorry about that, Cam. Right. Next on our list is Matty Pearson. So shall we, after 3, hold up what we think for Matty Pearson? I might have gone a bit low here. 3, 2, 1. I don't know. Cam's giving him a P, and we've got 2 7s.
Did I get it right? Did I get it right
Pearson.
that time? Is that?
What is that?
No, it's definitely a P. Is that? It's. I think. There's some kind of...
I thought I'd flipped
The
it.
6, isn't it? It looks a 6. Controversial.
I can confirm it's definitely a 9. Because, and I'm going to jump in. But what more can you ask of a defender? He provides a decent amount of solidity at the back. He gets himself onto the end of crosses at the other end. And I think the reason that the centre halves are feeling so confident to be able to go forward is because they've got confidence instilled in them in behind by Nichols. And I think that's what he brings. But hey, if Sorba Thomas continues in anything like the vein of form he's in, crosses and dead balls, and Sinani too, I should throw that in as well. Crosses and dead balls should be a major outlet for us. And so the centre halves that can get forward and have the confidence to get onto the end of those balls, like your Naby Sars and Matty Pearson's, and that could be a major outlet for us. And we need more than one major outlet because last season that was wing backs. And so, there's no hiding from the fact that our centre backs at the moment are a force going forward, and Matty Pearson has been the most forceful of all of them. So for me, it's a 9 out of 10.
He's got 2 goals disallowed as well, hasn't he? So there is that as well. So, he could have been on many more.
I like there to be an alpha male. You need a few in the team, and just the fact that you've got an alpha male that's kind of like able to, sort of have that presence and intimidate a little bit, I think is key. And at times I felt we've been a little bit soft, and so I think he does bring a little bit of that, as well as, what we've been saying about getting on the end of things. So yeah, he's decent.
He's Peter Clark 2.0 for me. There's a lot of similarities that you could bring in between him and Peter Clark, right down to the fact that they're slightly uncomfortable on the ball. My only sort of issue with him was that when he first came in, so like Jordan Rhodes, I was a bit unsure that he fit into the style. We saw him at Luton, and he's not overly comfortable on the ball. You look at his pass rate; it's 78.8%, which is okay, but in terms of accurate long passes, he's incredibly low, for a centre back. And what that does is it puts a lot of pressure on Levi Colwill to be the one playing out from the back. But I think there is also a lot to be said for a true out and out defender, of which Matty Pearson is. And I think out and out defenders are underrated these days as well, because they don't look, £1 million on the ball. And his clearances and his blocks are outstanding. He's solid. He can fill in at that right back side. And I think he does all the ugly stuff, which people don't always glamorize, does Matty Pearson. So for me, he's been a pretty good 7.
Well, Cos was talking about some of these as the season goes on, and young people, young guys, and the attrition of a season. He's someone that is going to be able to cope with that, and sort of like that some of these young guys are gonna lean on. So I think a good guy to have in the squad and around the place. You know what I mean?
Right. Next, Levi Colwill. So are we ready for this one? On 3, 2, 1. I think we've got, is that an 8? I don't know what that is, Cam.
Oh, I was bottling out trying to flip it around, and I realised 8 is probably the most screen friendly number.
It's the same
I couldn't tell that
is an 8.
Don't even put in your leg. I couldn't see that.
Kosi, what have you made of Levi Colwill so far?
Fantastic, similar kind of journey to Sorba Thomas for me. In that he just seems he's someone who's refreshing. Came in, and I know it's. You can see there's not a lot. It's 3 hours in a train or whatever and stuff. But I always think when a boy comes from like London and kind of bases itself kind of up north and that as well, I think it shows a lot of balls, does that. And that was the one thing when that first kind of stuck to me. Wow, this is impressive, because he won our first signing, someone we really wanted, and as well. And a lot of the stuff that were coming out of him on the kind of the training videos and kind of the one-on-one interviews and stuff like that. So this was a guy who learning his trade, happy to be here, and it kind of felt like a really good signing. And I think when you're going to endear yourself to the fans, if you score a winning goal like in the Yorkshire Derby in front of a 2,000 whatever crazy town fans and that as well, that's going to be you're going to have to stop it because I've got cramp in my foot. God, this is bad, man. When you get to my age, you'll be laughing. You're not going to stop it, Matt. You're going to edit this out, aren't you? Bastard.
No, I'm going to use this as like the main clip for the podcast.
Yeah, that hurt.
The selling point of the podcast.
Oh no! Can I start again with me?
No.
Levi?
Oh, that was perfect.
No, that's what you paid for, that sort of thing.
Oh yeah. So no, he's just no. He just looks like, to me, he's got a big future. And the fact that people were kind of liking him to Ben Chilwell. I mean, after early days, after a couple of games, says it all, and that as well.
I think that's on how mature he is, isn't it, for his age? And I think
the thing is, our defence has been last year was an absolute joke. The stats don't need to tell you that. The eyes told you that, and the fact that we've turned it around so far with some quality signings, a bit of a kind of strange pairings, really, haven't you? You've got kind of the other end of the spectrum with Leeds' age, and Pearson's at kind of a peak age as well, and you've got young Colwill, and obviously Edmonds Green. Who would have thought he would have been out of the plans and that as well? He looked like someone who'd probably be playing a lot this season. Obviously, kind of the future of Huddersfield Town, and in fact he's been shipped out. But no, excited to see what he can do, because I think he could be more than just defence, mate. I think he's got ball
centre mid type potential.
Yeah, definitely, man. He's a good player, and
Rolls Royce.
Rolls
Royce.
We couldn't. I don't think we could have done any better, Matt. to be honest. In terms of a left-sided centre-back for Huddersfield Town, we could not have done any better than pluck Levi Colwill out from Chelsea. Even at his age, I think he'll play for England. I think he's an outstanding player.
He's going to be one of them, isn't he, that in a few years' time we're going to be like, we had him at Town, and we'll take a little bit of pride in his career. So
when you know, don't you, Matt? When you know, mate.
Absolutely. He's
I think as well, like, and I'm not for a moment saying that, okay, we need to get ourselves carried away, because if you look back to 2016, 2017, then we absolutely killed the loan market. You had Danny Ward from Liverpool, Aaron Moy from Manchester City. And so I think that since then, we've really needed to hit that. We needed to hit that market again. And with Levi Colwill, I mean, you can tell he's been brought up in that kind of academy, because the lad has just got so much composure, like we've said, and he looks mature beyond his years already. And so, yeah, I can fully agree that it's going to be something like Chilwell. We see the trajectory of his career, and we see like Emile Smith-Rowe. Again, we've managed to capitalise, I think, there. And okay, yes, it's early doors, but you can just tell you got that feeling from him from the off, and you feel thoroughly content with having him in that defence. And yeah, that winner against Blades, that ain't going to do his reputation any harm at all.
He didn't know what to do. He's not used to crowds in, like, with men's football. It's like, what did I do? It was celebration.
You don't get that in the PDL2, do you, or whatever it's called? Like, it was brilliant to see, and so I'm really pleased with how it's going.
It's exciting. It's like, Cameron, it's like that we were saying earlier, that excitement. He's a player. What's going to happen? How's he going to be? You want to get down to the stadium and watch these guys. This is the refreshing thing, I think, this season is, can Karoma get back to, peak? Can Thomas keep it up? Is Colwill as good as what he's seen? There's actually stuff worth paying your money for now, where I didn't think you could say that last couple of seasons.
Colwill's so good, he gives costs cramp.
But it makes you excited for this people a bit as well, doesn't it? Because again, it's like young lads who've got something to prove and are coming down here, and okay, yeah, they've got sights set higher than Huddersfield Town, but we don't mind the inter if they're going to play well for us and put themselves in the shop window at their parent clubs and whatnot. And so, yeah, you're quite right, Kosi. Exactly. It's well, I'm going to stop short of champagne football, but it's certainly bubbly at the moment, isn't it?
You know what'll happen is next game, 2 own goals, you get a red or something.
Effie Sodgy Day. Yeah.
Yeah, Effie.
Right, guys, the next one is the Luxembourg Gary Roberts, as I've christened him. We're going to go for Darnell Sinani, and I've got 3, 2, 1. I've gone for a 7. And Matt's gone for an L. Yeah, we've all gone for 7. I think it's a bit early. It's early days, isn't it? But it looks very promising, Matt, from what we've seen. Everton, he was very threatening in that sort of attacking inside right position. He looks like he can play as a 10. He can come in from the right. He's got a great left foot. That free kick against Reading, was an absolute thunder bastard, that he's hit, and we've seen that from behind the goal, and the goalkeeper gets a slight touch on that to keep it out. If the goalkeeper doesn't touch that, it goes in. It's an incredible free kick, and he's
just having them two, behind the ball, him and Sorba on them set pieces makes it really because they're not going to know which way it's coming, right? I think that's why it's very exciting.
The Welsh Pilks and the Luxembourg Gary Roberts. That's what we've got now, isn't it? We're rolling back the years. Great signing, Daniel Sinani. Anyone else want to chime in with Sinani?
Well, I just want to point out the fact that 8 minutes tonight was all it took him to get an international assist, and so he clearly can bring it at all levels. I mean, I know that Azerbaijan, it's not exactly the creme de la creme of European football, but I think it's never a bad sign to see which national teams actually bank on their players, and so now we haven't seen very much of him. We've been waiting really until the Everton game to actually see him in the flesh. I know he made a very brief cameo against Wednesday. Hey, okay, he can take a penalty, that doesn't hurt. But yeah, he's not low on confidence. I like that. I like that. Okay, yeah, he missed a bit of a gobber against Everton, but that didn't put him off, and he took 5 shots, and he was only on for an hour. He was really unlucky again not to score against Reading, so it's only a matter of time. He cracked that one off the post, and you just think, God, that was just about 2 inches of steel away, wasn't it? The guy's fearless, and again, he's got something to prove. He wants to go back to his club at the end of the year, and have.
Hey mate, he's ours. He's ours next year. We've got the option to buy, which is great as well. So if he smashes it this year, we have the option. We've got the option.
All the signings that we made, he was the most intriguing for me. When kind of now and again, I do a little bit of homework, and I looked at him. I thought, this is an intriguing character here. It's kind of an intriguing journey, and it's almost like he needs to kind of set alight a club, and hopefully it will be us. So when I look at everyone, I mean, we've talked everyone up, and he's not obviously got as many marks as anyone else because he's not played as much football, but he's one I'm thinking we could have something here. So, and the early signs are really good, and it's just how Carlos uses him. It'll be interesting to see where he plays him, or finds a place in the team for him if he does.
Well, it's interesting that, because again, like I hope now after this break, that's just someone we start to see a little bit more of across that front region, and then yet the initial signs are good, and so yeah, the fact that all right, he could be genuinely our player by this time next year, I think that's a good bit of business from the club. And okay, I've been very critical of when the business hasn't been good, but this has been the best window in a long time, and so yeah, the jury is still out, because again, I'm not going to judge the guy. I've seen literally 2 hours of footy off him, but hey, like there's definitely been worse signings made in attacking positions in the last few years. So no, the signs are good.
And we'll come on to one of those shortly when we talk about outgoings. But next one up is Tom Lees. Tom Lees came from Sheffield Wednesday. I'll be honest, the way a lot of the Sheffield Wednesday fans talked about him in recent years, you thought, I'm not sure what we're getting here. But on 3, 2, 1, what we're going to give Tom Lees, we'll go with 7.
That's time to get it really quick
with a late
so there we go.
Yeah,
That's
everyone's gone for 7. It's impressed me. Pretty solid. Again, I was like Matty Pearson. I was worried that we might be lining up too many sort of industrial type centre backs, but I just like the way he sits in the middle of that 3 and he just organises. And I was talking to Kosi earlier about a rolling defence, Cam, how he just sort of rolls the defence to the left and to the right as and when it's needed. And you know, he's you can tell he's played over 450 championship games. He to me looks a good player, and he's only 30 as well, so he's not, you know, your 35, 36-year-old. You know, he's got, you know, more than a couple of years left, and I think this is quite, you know, on the early evidence, as is what we can all go on, is quite a clever signing, I think.
Yeah, again, I think this was a surprising one too. It wasn't one that I would have put down as building for the future. Again, I had it in my head that he was far older than he was. Yeah, he's one of those that you feel like it's been around forever, isn't it? But no, again, yeah. Whilst he raised a few eyebrows initially, I think he's displayed stability, and you can see the experience in him. You know, I think that it helps that's why he's got players like Levi Colwill there, and they can learn off him. Because you've got players who'd far outstrip him in terms of technical ability, but he's been there and he's been through tough championship seasons too. Because if this goes anything like the last few, and if you know, when we do start to play teams that aren't in the bottom 4, there's going to be difficult times ahead. And so an experienced head like him and the composure that he brings as well, I think we could definitely be calling on that at times. And again, you know, he's gone on the score sheet too. It's just another defender. It's been a threat in front of goal. And I think he's a calming influence too. I think he's good for holding that shape, like you said. And I think that other players can depend on depend on the fact that, okay, he knows the score. He knows this division like the back of his hand now. I don't think that's even come into play in the first few weeks of the season. But I definitely think on a rough January, say, when it really comes back to bite us and when the chips are down, I think that Tom Lees, we'll see the value in that signing then more than ever. But so far, I think 7 out of 10, fair play. When he's been called into action, then you know, even as a last minute replacement and etc. for the time of Matty Pearson was unwell, I think he's done more than what we could have expected, really.
We've lost a lot of leadership, haven't we? And, you know, debate about whether we're good or bad with Keogh and what have you. So it is quality. And I still think he's got a little watch now. He'll break down and be out forever, but a bit like Elphick, hopefully not. But he looks like he's got a lot of, you know, time still left on the tank on that as well. And I can just kind of vision a bit of a canal side training ground. You've got all these kind of young players and what have you, and they need people like, you know, Johnny Ogg and, you know, Tom Lees there. It sounds like Matty Pearson is a bit of a leader in that as well. And I think, yeah, he's good and he's coming straight away. I mean, he was thrown in against Preston, wasn't he, when he'd hardly trained or he had COVID or something. That could be totally wrong here. But I remember there were interviews saying, look, or he was poorly. He shouldn't have played, basically. But the fact that he wanted to do a job for the team said it all. So it's yeah, I think it'd be good. A signing when we got him, I'm thinking a bit like what have you. But it's yeah, he's good, mate. And someone like Levi Colwill will learn a lot from this guy.
Cam's gone again. The router's let him down. But yeah, so it's too early, isn't it? He's just through the door. But I think what's good is that we you know, Kosi and our WhatsApp groups and stuff, we thought we needed a striker, didn't we? You know, we've got a couple of strikers at the other end. You know, Danny Ward, Jordan Rhodes, Fraser Campbell, and we just needed. Kieran Phillips has gone to Walsall.
Absolutely rapid and all, isn't it, this guy?
Yeah, so we just needed that. That I think we just needed a bit of raw enthusiasm, and it looks like we've got that.
Yeah, energy, and then they all. To be honest, I mean, none of those others you feel like have got 90 minutes in them. None of them you feel like have got, 20 games of football consistently, to play there. So I think it's lovely to have someone new in. I just hope he's not like too young and too fresh, because 18 is young, But yeah, I can't wait to see him. Very excited. Do we know when he's going to be in for his debut? Does anybody know that?
It's free to play against Stoke. So yeah, I think he might appear on the bench against Stoke. I'd be surprised if he didn't.
Let's hope so.
I think he's a bit too good to throw into into a B team game unless it's for fitness only. But yeah, I would imagine he'll probably appear on the bench against Stoke. Danny Ward, I guess, will probably start because he scored in the last game, and then we'll see how we go. So it's an interesting one. It's one that I'm looking forward to seeing as well. I guess the next thing is, in terms of incoming, is there anything that we've missed? It's easy to be greedy, 9 players in, it's easy to be greedy and want 10, 11, 12, 13, isn't it? But do we think we've maybe missed anything? There's quite a few people have suggested that maybe we could have done with a creative central midfielder, that's thing. And from what I understand, we had a midfielder lined up on loan from the Premier League on deadline day, but it fell through. He went elsewhere.
Who was that?
Yeah, we suspect it was a young lad from Man City, but not confirmed anywhere that. But it's sort of a 2+2 job. But I think we're okay if we go with this shape that we're in at the minute, the 3-4-3. I think that we've got five central midfielders. Would you say, or people that can play? We've got O'Brien and Hogg, and you've got Alex Vallejo sits in for Hogg. You've got Scott High, who brings a lot of energy as well, and Dwayne Holmes as well. Dwayne can, he's a Swiss Army knife. Is Dwayne? He can plug and play wherever. It's not a terrible midfield in that 3-4-3, especially if Darnell Sinani, Sorba Thomas, Karoma, etc. bring the creativity higher up the pitch. I would have, everyone would have liked an extra midfielder, but I'm sat here thinking it would have been nice, but maybe not completely necessary, and we should hopefully be okay to January. I'm not sure how you guys feel.
I think that there's a few. What I like about it is that there's a few players that I think give them the opportunity to play a couple of different systems, as you've seen. So I think that there's a 3-5-2 in there, there's a 3-4-3, there's a 4-3-3. There's probably a couple of other there's attacking and defensive versions of that perhaps as well. So I think they've got a bit of flex. I think you always want as many good players as possible, because the fact of the matter is it is a season. You don't know what's going to happen. You need a squad. There's always going to be players that are like picking up suspensions, carrying knocks, and you never know when you're going to have something whereby you're not going to be able to rely on a Karoma or a Sorba Thomas. So I think you always want more, but what I feel quite happy personally about where we're at, and where that this might be enough to get us to January, and we can kind of look again.
I think the biggest thing for me was keeping hold of the crown jewels. I've been banging on a podcast for weeks. I was quite surprised, really. I thought we might lose 2 out of the 3. Never mind keeping all 3, and whether Leeds is, cock up with a deal structure, what have you. But even to get them through to January, it gives us more chance to get in more points on the board. It's a simple thing to say, but it's when you're in and these guys don't want to kind of commit past the end of the season, and you want in, you never know. We might be able to get a contract signed out of them. Maybe they'll look at. Maybe I'm a bit naive with my town glasses on, but they'll look at what's happening, like you've said, Matt, about the new energy, maybe the development. But I suppose tempo on Matt's early. Where are we heading as a club? And stuff?
There's three where you look at it: O'Brien, Toffolo, and Karoma, who their contracts are.
If you're them, why would you sign? You want to do you might as well do an Mbappe, aren't you? If I'm in their position, why would you sign? We don't pay big wages. You just see it out. It's the brutal reality of football, mate. Unfortunately,
just command more signing on fee. Yeah,
I would genuinely take the money that we get from Juninho Bacuna's move to Rangers, and potentially, hopefully, Isaac Mbenza. So we'll come on to Isaac Mbenza in a minute. So hopefully, there's still time for him to go. Any money that we would take, I would quite happily let the club, or be quite happy if the club used that money to extend contracts for the likes of O'Brien and Harry Toffolo, and offer them more money. And I know Harry Toffolo sometimes listens to this podcast, so if you're listening, Harry, sign a bloody contract, mate, because we need our best players to go over the next 18 to 24 months, and we could have a very good side at the end of that. So yeah, you're right, Kosi. Keeping Lewis O'Brien is massive. for me, he's the type of player you want to build your club around. You know, for me, he's a future captain of Huddersfield Town. You know, you look at Hoggy at 33, and Hoggy's doing a great job at the minute in that midfield. But you're looking at long-term successor, and for me, Lewis O'Brien is the natural long-term successor to Jonathan Hogg. Come through the academy. Okay, he's not from Huddersfield. You know, he's from Stockport. You know, I think grew up sort of Stockport area, but you know, he is, you know, a quality player. And for me, Lewis O'Brien is someone worth keeping. And if we could sort of keep him and sell others, then I would always look to keep Lewis O'Brien.
He just seems a good lad, doesn't he? He seems like a good guy to play with. Like, I like him and Toffolo's relationship. He just looks like he's a good sort of team player. I just love when he's pressing. It kind of like you know what I mean? I don't quite get a cramp, but I'm sort of like, it piques my interest, you know what I mean?
Because he gets the cramp, yeah.
Because he gets the cramp. But it's like when he's pressing you, you may as well give up. Do you know what I mean? Because you just see him gaining on him, and he don't really give away too many fouls. He's clever with it as well. And I'll really miss him when he goes. I think but I kind of feel insulted. But I was like, when I saw the numbers, I was like, oh, Leeds are signing. I'm like, okay, cool. If I guess they're paying the money. And I'm like hearing 4 million. And I'm like, are you serious? Like 4 million quid, like the amount of money that's wasted in this world. And you talk about 4 million, it is far better than 4 mil. Let's not give him. We're going to give him away. Let's not give him to Leeds. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, they've just spent 30 million on Dan James or something like that. And it's like, come on, like, please. So like, LOB, we need to keep them at all costs, really. I think that what's good about the outgoings is Baka. I love Baka. I love what he could have been. I love Rangers. So I'm quite happy that he's gone there, and I can kind of continue to hopefully see that ceiling. But I think probably he was one of those that was a part of that toxic group that kind of, and I'll put Mbenza in that as well. And I think that now the balance has gone, that there's, you know, we've spoken about Pearson, Lees, so, you know, the Sorba Thomas, these people with a good energy to them. And then the people that have maybe got that a bit of a bad energy, maybe kind of were like, well, I feel like I'm good enough for the Premier League, and actually this club's dead. You know, you can tell that that's how maybe they think. So I think it's just awesome that we've got rid of him. It's a shame that Mbenza hasn't gone. Personally, I'd just let him go. Like, what is the value of him if you've not been able to shift him? Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't understand it. Unless something happens with these European windows, like, what is the value of Mbenza to us? I think it's almost like a detriment. I can't believe that they re-signed him.
Yeah, there's conflict, isn't there? I think there's most of the links have come from Turkey for Mbenza, and their window is open for another 7 days. So all is not lost on Isaac Mbenza just yet. But for me, it's looking like one of those situations. You know, when you play Football Manager, Matt, and you know, someone comes in with a bid, but the club or his home club still have to front X amount of the contract up until it finishes. So he's got, you know, he's in contract till June 30th with us. And for argument's sake, let's say he's on 20 grand a week. If, you know, someone from Turkey, Besiktas, Trabzonspor, Galatasaray, whoever come in and they offer him 10 grand a week, then Town are going to have to make up that shortfall to the end of this season for him to go. It feels like that will, you know, I'm just speaking from, you know, general football terms. This is generally what happens in football, isn't it? If a player's on a good contract and doesn't want to go, you have to give him an incentive to go. And to me, that's probably going to have to be the incentive, is that Huddersfield are going to have to make up that wage until the end of the season. And, you know, so he doesn't miss out on anything. And if that's the case, then so be it.
But did they not extend Baka and him? Like, I thought that's what happened.
Yeah, they did. They took the 12-month option, didn't they? So they could try and sell them for money.
So, but yeah, so unless you've got something lined up, I just don't know why but that's the thing. Like, for me, when I say that the decisions that we make, I think they track to financial reasons and like financial, like, because I just don't know why you would want that guy at the club, really, apart from a couple of free kicks. Like, what have you been getting from him? You know, like, he's been better than Diakabi, I'll give him that. But, you know, you just haven't seen that good energy, that that kind of desire. And quite frankly, he's just been very, very hit and miss with a football at his feet. So I just don't understand why you've even taken that extra year. At least with Baka, he has produced some good kind of, at times, very good football. And at times he has looked like he gives a toss. I just didn't get the Mbenza bit.
I think sometimes in football, a bit like the Mbappe thing the other night, where everyone's saying, well, he can go for free. So why you want to pay 190, 200 million? But I think sometimes in football, there's just some stuff that people on the inside must know why they're doing or done what they've done. And it's just what it is. Because from the outside looking in, I think everyone agrees that it does seem a bit crazy, but there must be a reason. And like I said, Matt, part of me just thinks that we will get him out in the next 7-10 days. You know what? And even if he's still there, is it really any fans' issue? Really, we don't pay his wages.
No, but it's not a fans' issue. But it's a chemistry issue for the team, right? If there's someone that don't want to be like, it only takes one toxic person to have huge impact on other people. And I think that when you've got that, it's the balance. If you've got a few like that, it can get really, really shitty, and it can be very shitty and dressy, be very undermining for coaches and for people like that. So all I would say is he doesn't strike me like some of them. You can see it like with Sorba Thomas, you can see it with Lewis O'Brien and Toffolo, that they're good people to have about the place. With him, I'm just looking and going, he don't look like, I don't know what he brings. So unless you're actually having him not train with the team and you're having him not joining at all, I think that there potentially is a detriment, not to me as a human being, but to the team I support, and the chemical relationship.
Trains with the B. He's in the B team at the minute. He's training.
Yeah, it's so hard to come, and I think without knowing where he's training, what he's at, what bids we had. Did Huddersfield Town say, right, we are definitely going to sell you, and some sort of a team says, right, we will be back in 100% and stuff. I think it's a really tough one because it just looks a mad thing from the outside looking. It's a bit like that Mbappe thing, but
I think there's a lot of things to take into account. I think Mbenza is a really good learning point for the football club as well, because I think when the likes of Mbenza and Diakabi came in, I don't think Huddersfield were really set up for players like this. From what I understand, when these players came across, they spoke very little English, in Diakabi and Mbenza's case, and Huddersfield pretty much picked them up from the airport and dropped them off in the town centre and said, see you at training on Monday. There wasn't, I don't think there was masses, from what I hear, wasn't masses of help from them early on. And Adama Diakabi got burgled, I think, and Benza, and they both had sort of settling in periods. And by that point, and I think in terms of training, they were struggling in training to get up to speed with what some of the things wanted, and things didn't gel. And to Isaac Mbenza's credit, I think last year he came back really early and worked really hard to get into the side, and he did do well, and for that first period, and then struggled with injury thereafter. And I think once the club made it clear to him that he wasn't wanted, then he's obviously gone, well, screw you all, and so I think there are two sides to this, and I don't think everybody, including me, I certainly don't know the full story of it, but there are little things that you hear and it just makes you think, oh, right, okay, that's not been great for him on that side. So I think there are mitigating factors, but my overriding feeling is that this is an expensive learning exercise for Huddersfield Town. And the next time Huddersfield Town hopefully get to this stage where they can go out and buy players for 15 million quid, 10, 15 million quid from France and Belgium, etc., that they have things in place which will enable them to, integrate much more quicker, and things are a little bit different. So,
or just not bother. And I mean,
just keep buying non-league players like Sorba Thomas.
Yeah, exactly. I'd prefer us to just kind of go up and try and keep that together and just add little bits rather than stretch and reach. It's just almost like you were kind of throwing money and just kind of hoping something sticks. So
doing Norwich.
Hopefully that's the lesson that they learn.
I think that should pretty much round everything up for this week. I did ask for some comments on some transfers, and I'll read a couple out. HTFC Hursty says we've brought in solid backup across the board and some good starting options. Would have been good to shift some fringe players like Mbenza and Reece Brown and loan a couple more young players out as well, like Jackson Schofield. He's cautiously optimistic though. Stephen Murray says he's intrigued by Reece Brown. Nothing about him going anywhere, but doesn't seem to be near starting unless Corbran thinks with more coaching he could be the missing creative midfielder. I think that's a good question for another episode. John Lamb says about as good as we could have hoped, really. I feel the club have stretched the budget as far as it can. Plus we got a striker. I'm more worried about cover for Hogg than anything else, considering his hip injury and track record, and our track record without him. Shane Wood says decent window in my opinion. Only questionable signing is Turton, but that's just my opinion. And Craig Watson says as good as, if not slightly better than, could have been reasonably expected. With hindsight, we should have let Mbenza go on a free, and creativity in central midfield is still a question, but we now have a solid keeper and a backline, which was a must. Dwarf Pen, key addition to the squad has been this fella confidence. It's amazing to see the difference. Sinani looks good. Sorba and Karoma keep getting better and better. Keeper and backline solid. Stoke will be a real test. HTFC Dream says, good window, but not perfect. Great backline and goalkeeper. Thomas and Sinani look good. Holding on to O'Brien is great. Hopefully Meepo can step up and the bench now looks decent. And there's a few sort of said as well, Schofield maybe and Marcus Hayes, and maybe Schofield could have gone out and got a loan, but it would have left us a little bit short, especially without really going with a third keeper this year as well. And Marcus Hay as well sort of has a list of things that he would like: a goalkeeper, a Prem loan, a right back Prem loan, centre midfield permanent, winger permanent. Might be overstretching that a little bit, Marcus. Who knows? Eh? we've had 9, but yeah, there's nothing wrong with being ambitious. But that's it really this week. So thank you to everybody for joining. Thanks to Cam wherever he is for his cameo. I think we'll just call him Cameo from now on. Matt, it'll be good to see you.
Cameo, mate. Look behind you.
There we go.
Picture version.
There we go.
Oh, little man.
I know. He's
You'll
always
be smiling if you were going to John Smith Stadium every week.
I know. Here we go. He'll be on it in a couple of weeks, I think. So there we go. Anyway, I think that's good night from everyone. Say good night, Charlie. Good night. There we go. Right, thanks, everyone.
See you later, Matt. Thanks a lot, Matt.
There's a team that is dear to its followers. The colours are bright blue and white. They're a team of renown, and they're the pride of the town, and the game of football is their delight. And all the while upon the field of play, thousands loudly cheer them on the way. Often you can hear them say, who can beat the town today? And then the bells will ring so merrily, and every goal shall be a memory. So town, play up and bring that cup back to Huddersfield. So town, play up and bring the cup back to Huddersfield.